I wish I could tell you it was a moment of misunderstanding, that maybe I misheard, or he meant something else. But there are words you don't unhear, especially when they come from your father. It was his 60th birthday. The kind of event that gets catered, with rented heaters glowing like beacons across the backyard, and people you haven't seen since high school hugging you as if they remember your name. Everyone was smiling, drinking, and telling stories about the great Tom Pierce. To the outside world, my dad was a community man, retired firefighter, two-time marathon runner, and father of three. But no one saw the cracks under that polished surface like I did. My name is Kendall Pierce, and I've been walking on eggshells around my father since I was old enough to spell disappointment. After losing my job in New York last spring, downsized after a corporate merger, I moved back to our hometown in Colorado. Just until I found my footing again. That's what I told everyone. I still had savings and a few freelance clients. I wasn't flailing. I was recovering. Or so I thought. But to my dad, moving home was synonymous with failure. He never said it directly, but he didn't have to. The way he sighed when I cooked dinner as if it was my job. The way he bragged about my half-sister Maya's Columbia acceptance, but never once asked about the website I'd built for a national nonprofit. The way he introduced me at gatherings like I was a guest crashing on the couch, not his daughter. Still, I showed up for his birthday. I baked lemon bars from scratch, his favorite. I arranged the flowers on the tables. I even helped Karen, his second wife, with the guest list. She treated me like the help, but I bit my tongue. I just wanted to feel part of something that day. Anything. The party started around 6. The lights shimmered against the dusk, and music played softly from the Bluetooth speakers. I was refilling cups near the bar when Dad tapped the microphone. Everyone turned toward him. He looked good, tan, confident, with that fake humble grin he wore like armor. I should have known something was coming. Thank you all for being here, he began, raising his glass. 60 years, what a ride, huh? Some of you have known me through it all. Firehouse buddies, neighbors, even my oldest kids. Laughter. A few chuckles. My stomach nodded. I've been blessed with a lot in this life, he said, pausing for effect. Great family, wonderful friends, a second chance at love with Karen. And sure, life throws curveballs. Some years bring blessings. He looked directly at me, like a beam locking onto a target. And some bring burdens, but we carry them anyway, right? The crowd laughed. Even Karen gave that tight-lipped smirk she saves for moments when she feels superior. I stood there, frozen, holding a lemon bar in one hand and a plastic fork in the other, feeling every molecule in my body go cold. I wasn't being paranoid. I knew what he meant. Who he meant.
Me.
The daughter who came home jobless. The one who stayed too long. The one who didn't have a promotion or a fiancé or a LinkedIn headline worth boasting about. I swallowed the knot in my throat, set the plate down gently, and excused myself to the kitchen. I told myself not to cry. Not here.
Not now.
But in the quiet of that kitchen, I leaned against the counter and let the heat rise to my eyes. Not just from tonight. From years of being the invisible child. The one from his first marriage, who somehow became a footnote in his life. The one who tried to earn his love like it was a scholarship, conditional, limited. Never quite enough. I stayed in there for 10 minutes. Composed myself. Wiped off my makeup and reapplied a little mascara. I knew how to mask pain. I'd been doing it since high school. When I walked back out, the party was winding down. Maya was taking selfies with the dessert table. Drew, my older brother, was getting everyone to chant for tequila shots.
My dad?
He was leaning back in his chair, laughing like he hadn't just gutted his daughter in front of 50 people.
I didn't say a word to him that night.
I just helped clean up, packed the leftover food into Tupperware, and carried the trash bags out to the curb. But while I tossed that final bag into the bin, something inside me cracked. No, shifted. The way tectonic plates do before an earthquake. If he saw me as a burden? Fine. But he was about to learn what burdens do when they've been pushed too far. We don't collapse. We rebuild. And sometimes, we take down everything that broke us, brick by brick. After the party, Something in me fractured in a way that couldn't be glued back together with polite smiles or quiet endurance. I didn't sleep much that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling of the room I grew up in, listening to the faint sounds of my father laughing at the TV downstairs like nothing had happened. The same man who had humiliated me in front of our entire community, labeled me a burden at his birthday celebration, and made me feel like a ghost in my own home, was now watching reruns like it was just another Saturday. I wasn't okay, but I was awake. Fully. And once you're awake to how someone truly sees you, you can't ever go back. That was the moment I decided I wasn't going to keep trying to win his approval. I was going to win something else.
Control.
I started small, in silence. Revenge doesn't always start with fire, it starts with questions. I remembered details. My dad had taken out a second mortgage last year, blaming it on home renovations, though not a single tile had changed. Karen, his second wife, the perfect partner he always praised, was always dressed a little too well for someone who supposedly hadn't worked in over a decade. Her manicures were meticulous. She drove 40 minutes twice a week to visit a friend in another town. I wasn't sure what was going on, but I felt it. The cracks were there. I just had to follow them. I requested public property records under the name Karen Pierce. It turns out the house we were living in, the one my father always bragged about paying off before retirement, wasn't even under his name anymore. It wasn't hers. Transferred 4 years ago, after their anniversary, in what was probably supposed to be a sweet gesture of trust. But in reality, it meant he had handed her the deed. She owned the house.
He didn't.
And that wasn't all. I kept digging. Quietly, methodically. On nights when they were asleep or out at dinner, I used my laptop to run soft background checks. I discovered 2 past due property tax notices, paid off just in time to avoid default. A tentative purchase offer from a real estate firm based in Arizona, addressed to Karen directly. And an email chain between her and her ex-husband, an attorney, apparently. They were restructuring assets. Quietly. She was going to sell the house. I sat there staring at my screen at 1:17 a.m., heart racing, not with fear, but with clarity. All this time, I thought I was the failure in the family, the one who didn't measure up. But the empire my father built, it was crumbling under his feet, and he didn't even realize it. And I had the key to watch it fall. But I wasn't ready to set fire to it just yet. I needed something more. So I started planting seeds. It began with Maya, my half-sister. She was sweet, a little naive, and she idolized our dad the way younger daughters often do. I helped her with her Columbia financial aid paperwork one afternoon while Karen was out. I asked questions, gentle, curious ones. Did Dad mention how he's helping with your tuition? She blinked. He said we'd figure it out after the house sells. I think he and Karen are planning something. I nodded, pretending not to already know. Weird, he didn't tell you the house is in Karen's name? That landed. Her face twisted. Wait, what? Oh, sorry, I said quickly, feigning concern. Maybe I wasn't supposed to mention that. Forget it. But she didn't. The next week, I saw Karen's car peel out of the driveway after a loud argument. My father slammed the front door so hard, a picture frame fell off the hallway wall. I just sat in the kitchen, sipping tea. Let the cracks widen. Meanwhile, I worked behind the scenes. I contacted a few of my old digital marketing clients and picked up extra freelance hours. I didn't tell anyone, not even my friends back in New York. I wanted to be underestimated. They saw me as the failure who had to come home. But I was quietly rebuilding my income, networking, and stacking receipts, legal, financial, and emotional. Every fake smile Karen gave me, every dismissive shrug from my dad, every time they left me out of family conversations, I remembered it all. And I kept going. This wasn't just revenge anymore. This was a reckoning. They thought I was the burden. But soon they'd see. I was the one carrying all of them. And when the time was right, I'd let go. The night I invited them to dinner, I set the table with the same fake warmth I'd worn on my face for months. The china was mismatched. One of the plates still had a chip on the side, but I made it look elegant. I even folded the napkins into little triangles, just like Karen used to do for her book club nights. Let her think everything was fine. Let them all relax. Because when you want to burn a house down, you don't shout about the gasoline. You light the match quietly. I made chicken piccata, my dad's favorite. I even bought a bottle of the cheap Cabernet he always pretended to like more than he did. Karen brought a lemon tart and tried to compliment the candle holders as if she hadn't called them tacky last week. Maya floated in with her college hoodie, wide-eyed and still hopeful that her family wasn't built on eggshells. And I was calm. So calm it scared me. We talked about Columbia and Drew's startup and how Dad was planning to fix the shed before spring. The conversation was light, pleasant even. My father was in a good mood, smiling, relaxed, like the cracks in his life weren't spiderwebbing behind him. That made it easier. He always underestimated me when he was happy. I waited until the plates were cleared, until the dessert was halfway gone. Then I stood up and walked to the drawer near the fridge. I pulled out a plain manila folder and slid it onto the table in front of Karen. "What's this?" Dad asked, brow furrowing. "More college stuff?" Karen opened it and immediately stopped chewing. She didn't say a word, but her hand shook slightly. "Karen," my father said again more pointedly. I sat back down, folded my hands, and looked him directly in the eyes. "That's a printout of the Arizona offer letter," I said softly. "The one addressed to Karen. From the buyer interested in this house." He looked at her, confused. "What offer?" She stayed frozen. "There's more," I continued. "Emails between her and her ex-husband, who, surprise, is an attorney. A proposed asset split. And most importantly, the deed you transferred to her name 4 years ago." That's when it hit him. He grabbed the folder, scanned the pages, and his expression collapsed. "You are going to sell the house?" His voice was low. "Dangerous." Behind my back, Karen finally spoke. "I was going to talk to you about it after the holidays." Dad exploded. "After the holidays? I built this house. I paid every damn bill." "No," I cut in. "You didn't. Not lately. That second mortgage? The missed tax payments? You've been bleeding money since you retired. And she's been keeping this place afloat with her ex's help." I turned to Maya, whose eyes welled with tears. "And the money for Columbia? It was never guaranteed. They were planning to sell the house out from under you and me before you even moved into your dorm." Karen stood abruptly. "You had no right." "I had every right," I said, rising from my chair. "You both made me feel like trash for moving back. Called me a burden. You let him humiliate me at his party." Dad opened his mouth, but no words came out. "I may not have a 6-figure job or a condo in the city," I said, my voice shaking with truth, "but I still have integrity. And unlike you two, I don't bury the people I'm supposed to love in lies." The room was silent, the kind of silence that feels like something just broke. Dad finally sat down, hands trembling. Karen walked out, no apology, no denial, just pure, cold escape. Maya, bless her, stayed. She didn't say much that night, but the next morning she knocked on my door and simply asked, "Is it okay if I stay with you a while?" I nodded, and just like that, the tide shifted. I wasn't the broken daughter anymore. I wasn't the burden. I was the one who'd ripped the mask off the truth. But this wasn't over. Because while they were still trying to figure out how to salvage what was left, I was already 5 steps ahead. They tried to make me feel like I didn't belong in this house. So I did what they never saw coming. I made it mine. 3 weeks after that dinner, Karen moved out. No goodbyes. No dramatic suitcase roll down the hall. Just an emptied closet and a note taped to the microwave. "Tell Tom I'll have my attorney contact him about the settlement." He didn't even look at it. Just threw it in the trash and stared blankly out the window for hours, as if watching his life crumble brick by brick in real time. I could have gloated. Could have screamed at him for the years of neglect, the emotional warfare disguised as fatherly, tough love, the constant comparisons to everyone but me. But I didn't. Because, honestly, he wasn't the opponent anymore. He was the consequence. The days dragged on with a dull heaviness. He barely spoke, barely moved. For once, I didn't rush to clean up after him. I let the dishes pile in the sink. Let the silence stretch. I was done playing daughter to a man who never saw me as more than a disappointment wrapped in skin. And then, right when he probably thought things couldn't get worse, I served the final blow. See, while Karen had legal control over the house, I still had power over something else, my father's legacy. He didn't know that I had been quietly consulting a financial advisor over the last year. I had taken my severance and my freelance income and invested it. Strategically.
Carefully.
By the time I uncovered Karen's mess, I was in a position to make a bold move. I made an offer, not to Karen but to the Arizona firm, the one interested in the property. And they accepted. Because guess what? Karen never finalized the sale. It was a negotiation. But I knew where to step in. I bought the house. Outright. Every floorboard, every wall that had echoed with my father's judgment, now had my name on the deed. And when the papers cleared and I dropped them on the dining room table one rainy Tuesday, his silence said more than any outburst ever could. "You bought it?" he asked hoarsely. I nodded. With my burden money. That made him wince. He ran a hand through his thinning hair, looking like he'd aged 10 years since the party. "You're not going to kick me out, are you?" he asked after a pause. And for a moment I considered it. I considered all the nights I cried in that very room after he called me lazy, dramatic, a failure. All the years I chased his love like a dog hoping for scraps. All the things I could say now maybe I should. But I didn't. I looked him in the eye and said, "No, I'm not you." That's when he broke. Not in some cinematic way. No tears, no apologies. Just a quiet, painful sigh, as if he was finally realizing the cost of everything he never said. Of every hug he didn't give. Of every time he looked through me instead of at me. Maya stayed with me for the rest of her break. We painted the living room. Ate microwave popcorn at 2 a.m., made Spotify playlists called Not a Burden, Just a Boss. It was the first time in years I'd felt peace inside these walls. I also started my own business, branding and design for women-led startups. I named it Second Wind Studio. Not because I needed a second chance, but because I finally understood what it meant to create my own direction. My dad still lives in the guest room. We're civil. Some mornings we even share coffee. But he's quieter now.
Softer.
I think watching everything fall apart forced him to see me, truly see me for the first time. He hasn't said he's sorry. But I don't need him to. Because I've reclaimed every part of myself he tried to shrink. I didn't just survive his birthday humiliation. I outgrew it. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Your support means everything. If this story touched you or made you think, please subscribe to our channel for more real, powerful stories.